Hey everybody, happy Monday. Welcome to Secure This Seat Live. I am your host, Minda Harts. I'm so happy that you're here. How was your weekend? If you're watching with us live, then I definitely want to know how your weekend is. If you're watching this at another time, I still care about how your week is going. So make sure you put that in the chat. We made it. Shout out to all the fathers and father figures. I know we're just coming off some Juneteenth celebration. We're coming off some Father's Day love. Shout out to my father. And we're just here. So, I know sometimes we have some men who join us. So shout out to all of you. Appreciate you showing up and showing out. If it's your first time joining us, welcome. You're already part of the squad. You don't have to wait for your membership card. You got it right now. Okay. And for those who rock with us every Monday at noon or throughout the week, happy that you're here. You already know the vibe. You are family. Before we jump into today's episode, I also want to let you all know and remind you about the Writers Retreat. Last year, I hosted my first Writers Retreat. It's called Secure the Seat Writers Retreat, and it was awesome. We had almost 50 students who were committed to getting their ideas, their books, learning more about the process, just being held accountable for their writing and their thoughts, learning about the publishing industry, because so much of it, you just don't know what you don't know. And so I wanted to pull the curtain back and share what I know and bring some of my favorite authors and brand strategists to the table so that you can have what you need. So we're going to drop that link in. I'm only taking 45 students because I'm actually doing a hybrid this year. Last year we did 2-day, all day. We had a great time. So this year I'm doing things just a tad bit different. And you'll also include it in the ticket is one-on-one time with me. Last year, that was an add-on. So this year it's part of it. You get a dope t-shirt and a curated box. It's just, I'm super excited. We have quite a few students that have already registered, so I don't want you to miss out. And for today and throughout the week, if you use STS 2021, you will get a discount. So I want to see you at the Secure the Seat Writers Retreat. If you have a book in your heart, if you want to put a book out yourself, you want to go to the traditional route, I want you to have that information. So you can't say, no, but I didn't know what to do. All the information is at the retreat. So we dropped the link in there. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, listen, let me tell you, I hope you got your tambourines ready for today's show. I just hope you do. If you've never joined us before, we have what we call tambourine moments that occur throughout the show. And that's when we just a guest drops a gem and you can't help but shout, you can't help but dance, you can't help but praise, whatever you do to hold on to that bit to get us through the week. And so I got my tambourine handy because I already know what Kandia is going to bring to today's episode. Today we're talking about dissecting your BS, your belief systems, because sometimes those beliefs that we have hold us back. And so we're going to talk about it. Kandia is a visibility strategist and leadership coach for women. Listen, if you aren't following her already, you're gonna want to do that right while we're talking. So without further ado, gonna bring Kandia to the stage. Hey girl, hey.
Hey girl, hey. Hello. Happy Monday. Make it happen Monday, people. Hello.
Hey, oh, you already getting us going. Make it happen Monday. All right.
I have a theme for every day.
I love it. Listen, tell everybody a little bit about you for those who may not be familiar with your work.
Sure. So my name, again, is Kandia Johnson. I am a leadership coach and trainer. And so I teach people how to communicate confidence, move past self-doubt, and position themselves as leaders within their industry or within their workplaces.
Yes, and we're going to drop your information in. And before we get started, you have something coming up. We're going to drop the link in the chat for people, but tell us a little more about that.
Sure. So July 6th kicks off my free boot camp, Stuck to Unstoppable. And it's a boot camp designed to help people move past their limiting thoughts. So I'm going to share with you my 5-step process for getting your mind right every single day as it relates to working through self-doubt, uncertainty, and fear. And I'm also going to talk about how you can speak more confidently and persuasively about the value that you bring to the table.
All of that. So we'll drop that link in so you can get unstuck because we have to do that, and we got to get these minds right. That's why we come on Mondays, right, to get that fuel that we need. So let's get into it, Kandia. So I said I took it from you because I heard you say we got to dismantle that BS in our life. So talk to us about what is that BS and how does it show up in our lives?
Sure. So this is so funny that I often am asked to clarify this because my family always makes fun of me and they say, Candy, they're gonna tell you to own your BS. So your BS is your belief system. It's the lies and excuses you tell yourself for why something can't happen or why it hasn't happened. It's a two-part definition. It's also the principles and rules that you were raised to live and die by. Many of us were taught what to believe. We were taught what to dream, right? We were taught what was acceptable and what was unacceptable. And so at some point, not questioning what you've been taught as a child is a problem. At some point, not questioning what you've been taught becomes your beliefs become your barriers to success in your relationships and your career. So I always tell people, if you think about the areas where you want more in your life, okay? Typically, we think we want a more fulfilling career. We want more money. We want more mutually beneficial relationships. And so when we are trying to level up in those areas, typically our beliefs get in the way. They act as barriers. So if you were taught to not question authority, it may prevent you from not speaking up at work or not making the ask. If you were taught that you have to pay your dues and, struggle before success, you just like you stick around in a bad intimate relationship with someone who's not treating you well, you are also going to stick around in a bad company with bosses who don't respect you and who don't deserve you, right? And so those beliefs, whether you learn them as a child or even if you've learned them at your first environment and you stuck around way too long, our experiences shape our beliefs and we carry them and we use them as principles that we are living by, but it actually acts again as a barrier to our success.
Listen, those thoughts can be barriers. That's why we have to get our mind right. Like Kandia said, I was thinking about what you were talking about. And for so long in my career, in my former life, I would be experiencing these inequalities in the workplace. And I used to think, well, you're a Black woman. You should just be happy to be here, happy to have your job. Don't say anything. Don't rock the boat. And for so long, I believed that I didn't have a voice, that I couldn't say anything, that I would maybe I'd get fired and maybe I don't know what would have happened, but you can always dismantle those belief systems, right?
Right. It was the same for me, Minda. I believe for a very long time, I should just be grateful that I have a 6-figure, high-paying job with good benefits. It's a stable company, and I should just be thankful and just, get over the fact that these people are not recognizing me or are disrespecting me in the workplace. So I was raised with that same belief as well.
Yeah, and we got to dismantle that because you know what happens? We just perpetuate the BS from generation to generation. Is that right?
And next thing you know, it's 15 years later, and you're like, I just want to get my 5 years in, and then I'm going to retire, as if that is the end. And I've had this conversation, with my friends and my clients, not only about themselves, but about me as well. We've all been guilty at one point or another of settling into that belief.
Absolutely. Listen, if you have some belief systems right now that you need to throw out the window, just put your ones up because we're committing to the accountability of redefining what our belief systems can be. Something else I've heard you say, Kandia, is your feelings aren't facts. How does that phrase correspond with our BS, our belief systems?
Well, again, so I often say that to myself, y'all, when my brain gets too far ahead and I'm building a story around something that's not true, when I'm making an assumption, I often say, Kandia, listen now, girl, your feelings are not facts. Okay, get your mind right. But that statement comes from the fact that our experiences inform or they shape our beliefs. And so you have to remember, just because you think it, it doesn't mean it's true. Just because you feel it, it doesn't mean it's true. Your feelings are valid by all means. You can acknowledge them without owning them. right? So you have to get to the point where, for me, I often remind people your success comes down to learning how to have a better conversation with yourself. Because the fact that you're having those thoughts or those feelings, that's not the problem. The problem is you're letting them run around in your head unattended, like a 2-year-old, right? Without kind of reeling them in and challenging them or reframing them into thoughts that serve you instead of thoughts that are harming you at the moment.
Listen, have better conversations with yourself. Okay. Better conversations with yourself. Over the last couple of years, I've learned that the stories that I tell myself about myself need to change. Okay. So you were speaking to my spirit, Kandia.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That story, even some of the words that we use every single day. I finally, went back to school. Finally, when you use finally, you're judging yourself. You're judging yourself. I had an event. My event only had 10 people. So what? What are you making that mean? So that's another better way to have a conversation with yourself. When you hear those words, finally and only and never, or woulda, coulda, shoulda, I would have done this or I could have done this, you are rejecting yourself. You're acting as if your success doesn't need to be acknowledged or celebrated. And so I always tell people to beware of those words, even in conversations with yourself, because you're judging and you're entering a period of self-blame, like you shouldn't be celebrated or acknowledged. So it really does start with those conversations that you have with yourself as well.
Listen, if you have questions for Kandia, this is the time. Start dropping them into the chat. If you have some belief systems, you have some questions about unlearning some things, this is the time. Drop those in because, we have the expert on hand today and we want to make sure that we answer your questions. Thank you for tapping into that because, a lot of the times we'll say, oh, I can't believe so-and-so said that to us. But what are we saying to ourselves? Right. And how important is that? So I see everybody in the chat saying, thank you, Kandia, for that. And also, too, I wanted to comment on, you said that our feelings are relevant, but they might not also be facts. So reiterating that our feelings do matter, but are they true? Are they not? Right.
Yes.
I love that. The other thing I wanted to talk about, because I think part of this RBS that we hold on to is this idea of imposter syndrome. I would love for you to talk us through imposter syndrome and why you think it shows up or we allow it to show up in our mind and in our lives.
Okay. So I love talking about imposter syndrome. So I want to offer us 3 options to consider, right? So the number one thing is acknowledge it. You can acknowledge the feeling, but you don't have to own it. Once you acknowledge it, and acknowledging is key. Let me say this. Acknowledging is key because when we don't acknowledge that we have these feelings, it turns into shame. We're embarrassed that we have these feelings, and then we silence our voice, right? So it's important that we not acknowledge it. And then I want you to work on challenging it and reframing it. Reframing the thoughts that you have is one of the most powerful tools that you can have in your arsenal. So when you think about reframing it, it's taking a negative statement and turning it into a positive, or it's taking a negative statement and looking for the reality of the situation, right? Checking your assumptions, checking how do you know that this is true? Who told you that? Right? Checking your assumptions. So that's the first thing. Acknowledge it, but do not own it. Work to reframe it. The second piece of that, I always think of the late, great Maya Angelou. And at one point she said, I've published 11 books. And each and every time I think to myself, they're going to find me out now. They're going to find out that I'm running a game on them. So even the late, great Maya Angelou, after publishing 11 books, she struggled with imposter syndrome. So recognize that you are not alone. The problem isn't that you have the feeling. The problem isn't that you have those thoughts. The problem is you're allowing it to run around in your head without addressing it, without acknowledging it, without seeking to reframe it. Okay, so that it works into a thought that serves you, or at least you get to drill down and figure out this is just an assumption that you're making. The last option that I want to offer you it's based on an article that I came across. Everyone who's ever struggled with imposter syndrome, please read this article. Sometimes it's not, imposter syndrome looks at women mainly, right? So it affects men too, but women mainly, as if we need to be fixed. And sometimes it's not us, it's the environment that we work within that needs to be fixed. So this article is entitled "Stop Telling Women They Have Imposter Syndrome." It was published on the Harvard Business Review site. So please, please, please read it. But it breaks down just this premise that imposter syndrome is solely about fixing women. If you work in a male-dominated industry, if you work in a predominantly white, Caucasian workplace or what have you, those feelings are bound to come out, that you don't belong, that you're an imposter, that you don't matter. So I always say it's almost as if you're walking down a grocery store aisle and you're in, cleaning supplies, and then you see bread. You're like, okay, wait, this doesn't belong here. So of course you're going to feel like you don't belong. So consider these three options, but take you out of the equation, because oftentimes we look at it as if we need to be fixed. And sometimes it's a sign that your workplace is not being as diverse, right? Or accepting as they say that they are in their vision statement or core values.
Absolutely. Thank you for giving us those three tangible ways to kind of rethink imposter syndrome that's showing up. And I love that article. We actually dropped it in the chat so that people can go ahead and read that, because it's so important. You said so many things, Kandia, but one of the things that really hit home for me is, are the things we're telling ourselves serving us, right? So if we're allowing some of these things inside our psyche or our minds or what have you, are they serving us? And if they aren't, then we need to get rid of those thoughts, right?
I am a huge fan of brain dumps, Minda. So sometimes I often do them on Sunday nights when I'm planning and preparing for the week. But sometimes if something happens, I need to do them midweek. And I write down the craziest things I'm telling myself in my head. And I take probably the top 3 that's really making me feel a certain sort of way. So usually I feel it right in my chest. And I work on reframing those thoughts so that they serve me, whether that's challenging my assumptions or reframing it so that that thought works for me instead of against me, right? And a huge part of it too is embracing your power of pause. And I always tell people a pause could be 5 seconds, 15 minutes, or 15 days, take what you need. But all change begins with a pause so that you can have that time to acknowledge your feelings or your thoughts and reframe them so that they work for you, not against you.
Listen, if you go to church and you didn't go to church yesterday, we brought the service right here to you on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. It's here. Listen, if you want to relearn and get unstuck, we're going to drop Kandia's bootcamp in the chat another time. It's a free bootcamp that she's offering, because I don't have to sell it. You already know what she's bringing to the table. And so you know why she is a guest today on Secure the Seat, because we got to dismantle our BS, our belief systems, because some of these belief systems can't go where we're headed, right? They are not going to serve us in the future us. And so even as you were talking, I was thinking of, for some of you who may not know, my first book, The Memo, did very well, award-winning bestseller. I have another book coming out October 5th, and I've been telling myself these stories like, oh, I don't know if you could do it again, right? I don't know if you can write a book that people, that is transformative in people's lives. You just should have left well enough alone on The Memo and just keep writing that wave, right? But I had to reframe that. I'm saying, no, I wrote The Memo, but right within is a different book, right? It's serving a different need, and it's the right time for the right now. So I had to retell myself stories that serve me, right? Not the ones that slow me down. And so thank you for, and it happens to all of us. So it's not like, one of the questions that I see in the chat here for you, Kandia, is how did you get to this place? How did you get to this unlearning and telling yourself a new story?
So first off, I would say there's two events. One, of course, when in 2012, I left my career and as a corporate and communication and learning consultant. for a management consulting firm. And so for me, I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. My family was like, girl, what are you doing? It's a good job with good benefits. Who does that? Right. So the part of the reason why I'm here is because I had to challenge my own belief system about what's possible for my life. And then secondly, the second event for me was, so I conduct a lot of communication skills, leadership development skills workshops. And time again, I arrive at a company, and in the very beginning of the workshop, I would do this index card exchange where I ask the leaders to share with me anonymously their struggles and their challenges as it relates to speaking up in the workplace or selling themselves or things of that sort, right? Or just building deeper relationships with their employees. And time again, I would say 90% of the time, the challenge or the struggle was mindset. What if I say the wrong things? What if I make a mistake? I don't want to get fired over this mistake. What if people don't like me? So it was all of these internal struggles that people were having. And so I had to even switch up my curriculum a bit just to include the mindset work that has to take place before the method even is introduced. Because if I can give you the tools and the techniques on what to say and how to say it, but if there's a thought in your head that competes with that method or that tool, some of you can invest in some of the best coaches, the best workshops and retreats. But if there's a thought in your head that, or a voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough, if there's a voice in your head that tells you nobody around you was able to make this happen, so you're not going to make this happen, it doesn't matter how much money you invest. So you have to do that mindset. I always say that success requires both mindset and method. One cannot exist without the other.
Whew, that mindset is everything. It's everything. It will take you to the highest of highs or keep you on the floor, right? That mindset is.
And one more thing that I would like to add too, particularly when it comes to self-doubt and imposter syndrome, Minda, when you talked about the thoughts around your book, I always tell people this: sometimes your feelings are your GPS to where you need to grow in life. Don't get mad, get strategic, right? Because here's the thing with imposter syndrome, it only shows up when you're about to do some amazing things, right? It only shows up when you're about to level up. It doesn't really show up when you're just being regular smegular, right? So you have to learn how to say, okay, I must be going somewhere amazing because I have this uncomfortable feeling, and it may be a space that's going to be so incredible that I just need to grow in it. You just need to grow through it. So sometimes these feelings, although they don't feel good, you have to acknowledge them because they may be moving you into a space where you need to go.
Yes, that growth is, there's this like meme and she says growth. It's an insecure meme, and I love that. And we do have to have that growth. I love this conversation. I could talk to you all day, Kandia, but we got to move into our bonus questions for all of you who may know. Every Monday I bring this up. I am a lover of grits and rap lyrics. There's only one way, in my opinion, to eat grits, and that's with salt. Sometimes, butter and cheese, but something that's called sugar, I just have a hard time.
Listen, we're not going to talk about that, okay? That's another secure the seat. All the sugar, grit, having people, we need to have a separate conversation.
That's a after hours conversation. Secure the seat after hours. We'll have to do some mindset shifting with all you sugar grits eaters. But Kandia, what is your favorite rap lyric and why?
So I say this often. I even have a book list off of this lyric. How you gonna win when you ain't right within? How you gonna win when you ain't right within? Come again. I love that lyric from Lauryn Hill because it speaks volumes to the work that I'm most passionate about. We spend so much time trying to fix the outside. And one of the quotes that I love from Eckhart Tolle is, once you get the inside right, the outside will fall into place. And so for me, that lyric speaks to everything about mindset and method, right? If you want to change the story that's happening outside of you, first you must change the story that's happening inside of you.
That part, you already know I love that song. So Lauren always brings the gems, love her. And we have to, and it's part of that BS that you talked about, our belief systems. And we got to be right within, we got to have the right mindset. The other question in my opinion, everyone is a leader. You don't have to wait for your seat at the table. You don't have to wait for, $1 million. We all can be a leader right now. We can activate that today. For every leader watching, what is one tip you would give to make the workplace better than they found it?
Ask for feedback. Ask for feedback. I believe people, particularly people who are in leadership roles, we're so used to giving feedback and giving guidance and instruction and visionary stuff. When is the last time you sat down with your team and allowed your team to give you feedback? And I don't want to say, and I want to make sure that we're clear, not just like in a survey type thing, but having a real conversation. One of my favorite books, Dare to Lead by Dr. Brene Brown, she gives some really good, tough conversation starters that leaders should have. And I believe the one thing that you could do is to become a good listener, to ask for feedback, engage in conversation with your employees at all levels of the organization, just not with the people that are on your level, because I do believe that that's the best way to uncover your blind spots. As you grow up the chain of command, you're dealing with a gazillion different blind spots that are totally out of your view. And so for me, leaders should never lose touch with what's happening on the ground. And so open yourself up for those tough conversations to uncover your blind spots.
Absolutely. Great advice. I love Dr. Brene Brown's book, Dare to Lead. I teach at NYU, and that's part of my syllabus. I have 4 books that I use, and Dare to Lead is part of it because there's so much in that book. But if you're looking for something to read that's really going to help you grow and shift some of your belief systems in the right direction, definitely pick that up. And the other thing, you want to join Kandia's boot camp, we're going to drop that in the chat so you can have that. Kandia, any final words that you'd love to leave the audience with as they go into the rest of this week?
I just want, we have like 6 months left until 2022 happens. And so one of my mantras that I've been saying quite often is show up and speak up anyway. Just because you feel it, it doesn't mean it's true. Just because you think it, it doesn't mean it's true. You are enough. Speak up and continue to use your voice and continue to engage in communities such as what you're doing, such as what you've created, Minda, because confidence comes from community as well. And sometimes it's just being around a group of people who have not maybe the same vision, but they're working for the more in their life and career. And that could also help you get unstuck.
I love that. I love that. For those who might have joined the broadcast later, Kandia, tell them really fast about your boot camp, just so they know. And we dropped the links there for it.
Yay. So my boot camp is called Stuck to Unstoppable. And so the first part of the boot camp is going to teach you how to move past your feelings of self-doubt, uncertainty, and fear. I'm going to introduce you to my 5-step framework for managing your mind and getting your mind right so you can show up and speak up anyway. And then the second part of the boot camp is all about speaking confidently about the value that you bring to the table so that you could market yourself for a new job or a promotion or position yourself differently as a leader. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Yes, all the things. Listen, I'm a firm believer that we don't just get our seat and kick our feet up. We bring other people with us. Today's episode, about 5 people that need to listen to this, okay? That need to dissect their BS, their belief systems. And so we all just have we show up better for ourselves. I'll often say is, what do I need to do right now so that the future me can thank me? Right? What do I need to let go? What do I need to lean into? And so we want you to be the best versions of yourself, but that might it does start inside. You can't win if you ain't right within and have that right mindset. Okay. So I'm so happy that you all joined us today. Kandia, where can people find you and support you, hire you, all the things?
So I love Twitter. I love to play on Twitter. It's actually where I met Minda Harts. So I love Twitter. I love Instagram. And you can also email me, hello@kandiajohnson.com.
Yes, let us know. Let's keep the conversation going. We both love to play on Twitter, so you can find us there. Also want to let you all know, as a reminder, the Secure Your Seat Writers Retreat is happening next month. We'll drop that link in for the community, STS 2021. If you have a book that you've been wanting to write, you're not sure how to do it, you need help just getting a writing practice, whatever that is, join us, because I'm only accepting 45 students. I know that sounds, when I see different people talking about their courses, I'm like, I'm only going to accept 10. Listen, I only have the capacity to do 45 because I want to spend individual time with you. That's why I'm doing it, just so I don't fall out and not have enough self-care time. But I want you there because so many of you slide into my DMs, send me emails asking me. I mean, that's probably the number one question I get asked daily. What do I need to do to write a book? And so here's the way to do it. I'm sharing it all with you as much as I possibly can. But Kandia, thank you for how you show up. Thank you for helping us secure our minds in the ways we need to and keep seeing ourselves the way we need to. You are more than enough, as she said. Share this episode with someone, and we will see you next Monday at noon. Have a great week and keep securing your seat.
Bye, everyone.